On October 5, 2018, 27-year-old Terrence Woods, a freelance filmmaker, was working with a production company filming a reality show at Penman Mine in western Idaho. Whilst the crew were wrapping up, Terrence jumped off a cliff and sprinted into the thick mountain forest, stunning the entire crew. Before anyone could respond, Terrence had disappeared without a trace. On the same day, Connie Johnson disappeared in strange circumstances from Fog Mountain in Idaho, around 56 miles to the north. Penman Mine is located in the Oro Grande area, which is part of the larger Nez Perce Clearwater National Forest. It's in Idaho County, a mountainous 8,500 square mile region of western Idaho. Nez Perce is a 2,224,091 acre U.S. national forest located in west central Idaho and is made up of 4 separate wilderness areas. The mountains in the forest provide wildlife habitat for timber wolf, raccoon, moose, black bear, coyote, cougar, elk, and other forest animals. The terrain is very mountainous in the 5K to 7K range and thick with multi-year deadfalls of large trees, making travel by foot difficult in areas. Terrence grew up in the Capitol Heights, Maryland, with his parents and 3 siblings, and was a University of Maryland graduate. He lived in London for several years, attending the American International University, before moving back to the U.S. in 2018. He was an experienced journalist who had traveled the world working on documentaries and television shows, often working in tough situations whilst filming. His father said he had no history of panic attacks or psychiatric issues, such as depression. He appeared to have been prepared for the wilderness shoot. His parents were given his backpack that he had left at the site. Inside it were a couple of camera bags, batteries, Sharpie pens, over-the-counter painkillers and cough drops, hand cream, iPhone charger, and 3-inch folding tactical knife and stun gun. He'd been on several different rugged wilderness shoots prior to this, including Turkey and Alaska, so he had experience in the backcountry and this section of Idaho, but never in the location of the mine. Friends say he didn't really want to go on this trip based on the text messages before he left. Friends weren't shocked by the comments, but thought it was unusual after the fact. They said his behavior on the shoot didn't match what he was like in normal life. Fall 2018, Terrence got a freelance job working for a London-based Raw TV, the production company for the popular Discovery Channel show Gold Rush. The shoot required Terrence to be out in the western United States, specifically Montana and Idaho, for several weeks, starting on October 1st, 2018, and concluding in the second week of November. They were making a TV series about an abandoned gold mine called the Penman Mine, which has an elevation of 6,000 feet, located in the Oro Grande area of Nez Perce Clearwater National Forest, including Terrence. The crew consisted of 12 people. September 30th, 2018, Terrence Sr. dropped Terrence off at the airport in Maryland. This would be the last time he would see his son. October 1st, 2018 to October 5th, 2018. From landing at the airport to Friday morning, Terrence was in Montana. During this time, he was in good spirits, texting his dad pictures of the scenery and telling him everything was fine. At 10:58 p.m. Idaho time and 12:58 p.m. Maryland time, Terrence sent his dad a text. The text read, "Hey Dad, just got to the hotel in Idaho." 12:58 a.m. Idaho time, early Friday morning, 2:58 a.m. Maryland time, Terrence texts his dad a video of a serene river cutting its way through a rocky canyon. The text had no location on it and the words no clues. Later, during an investigation by the Washington, D.C. news outlet, a reporter who saw the video remarked how it seemed creepy and foreboding. 3 a.m. Idaho time. Terrence calls his dad to tell him that he made it here and he's okay. Not much more was said, and his dad said, "Let's talk more later in the day." The film crew was using Elk City, Idaho as a base of operation. At 5:44 a.m., Terrence texts his dad again and says, "I'm coming home on Wednesday, the 10th. This would be cutting the trip short by several weeks, something Terrence had never done. Terrence was supposed to be in Idaho working on a documentary until mid-November. 3 p.m., Terrence Sr. texts Terrence back, but the crew was already in the middle of its day shoot in the remote area, a few hours from the hotel, with no cell phone service. Terrence Sr. isn't sure if Terrence ever saw the text. October 5th, The crew spent the day filming in the mountainous area of Penman Mine. What happens next is unexplainable, according to the on-site production manager Simon, who later recalls what happened to Terrence Sr. Simon recalls, quote, "So we were finishing up for the day, and your son was talking to one of the miners. I was in one of the vehicles doing some work when your son told the miner that he had to go relieve himself. Something told me, kind of like a gut feeling, to look over near the cliff your son was at. When I looked over there, all I saw was the radio lying on the ground. I originally thought your son fell off the cliff, so I leaped out of the vehicle and ran over there immediately. To my shock, your son was already 15 feet down the cliff, running like a hare. I've never seen anyone run that fast. At that point, I yelled to the crew to get in the vehicle and go to the main road. I proceeded down the cliff after your son, but he kept running. Due to my professional SAR training, I stopped running after him out of fear he'd be further scared, so I went back topside and the crew hadn't found your son on the main road. At this point, we found the first house with a phone and reported your son missing," end quote. A local woman from Elk City that was with the film crew, Shiri, eventually corroborated the story that Simon told, and local law enforcement stated she was a very reliable witness. Terrence was reportedly acting strangely and was noticeably quiet. It is also reported that his cell phone was with him at the time he ran into the wilderness. At 6:41 p.m., 9/11 call log transcript from the Idaho County Sheriff's Office read, "Advise that a male Terrence Woods, 27, from London, works for a TV company who is creating a movie in the area of Penman Mine. Never been in the woods, no guns. Terrence has been having a really hard time emotionally and had a mental breakdown earlier today. Dark complexion and light clothes. Terrence is not going to respond back to the responders per reporter. Terrence does not have communications. There are people searching for him now," end quote. October 6, 2018, a Saturday morning. Simon calls Terrence Sr. to tell him his son is missing. In addition to the detailed account of what happened to Terrence Jr., he mentioned some issues he had with Terrence leading up to his disappearance. Simon said, quote, "Terrence came highly recommended to us and was our first pick. When I met your son, he didn't live up to my standards. Well, I asked him to do different things and he didn't know what to do. He said there were other things your son did not do that I didn't like," end quote. October 5, 2018, an evening. A massive search and rescue operation involving multiple countries and law enforcement agencies kicked off. Search crews on ATVs circled the area, multiple dog teams set out in search, and a helicopter with heat-sensing technology was in the air. There were also crews on horseback, but search conditions were extremely difficult due to the rugged terrain. One searcher commented, quote, "You couldn't even walk through there. All the downed trees and brush," end quote. By midweek, heavy rain and snow in the high mountains hampered the helicopter search. After 7 days of searching, the Idaho County Sheriff's Department started to scale the search back after nothing had been found regarding Terrence. It was reported that at some point during the search, law enforcement officials went to Simon's room to make sure it was locked. However, people from the crew had already been in his room, supposedly to get articles of clothing for the tracking dogs. It's also reported by the news media that law enforcement never asked for Terrence's cell phone records and never did a search history of Terrence's laptop. Both would have required going to a judge and getting a subpoena, which would require evidence of the crime or that he was endangered. Law enforcement officials concluded the evidence showed Terrence intended to disappear. Many were shocked this never happened. People familiar with the cases like this said it would not have been hard to get the proper authority to do the searches. In an interview, the local sheriff said that the guys working the SAR operation will tell you that Terrence was not in the area that we searched. They determined that he slid down the bank and made it to the road. After that, they don't know where he would have gone. They said if he was hurt or injured, they would have found him. And if he had done something fatal, the dogs would have found him. However, another officer said he was shocked he could get out of the area. The forest floor is thick with deadfall, lodge poles, and Douglas firs that have toppled down on each other year upon year. The officer described it as trying to run through a giant pickup sticks with some parts so thick with deadfall that your feet would never touch the ground. Search teams also found no prints in the fresh snow, with no indication whatsoever that Terrence was ever there. Raw TV said, "We can confirm that Terrence Woods, a member of one of our production teams, went missing on Friday, October 5th in Oro Grande Nez Perce National Forest, Idaho." The Idaho County Sheriff's Office was immediately informed, and they implemented a search and rescue operation. Mr. Woods is a well-liked, valued member of the production team, and we have been working closely with the Sheriff's Office, which has been leading the search. Mr. Woods' family are in the direct contact with the Sheriff's Office. All inquiries regarding the status of the search should be directed to the Idaho County Sheriff's Office. So what was law enforcement's take on the case? Possible panic attack or mental breakdown? But there are conflicting reports of who said this. Some reports said he had to be detained before his disappearance, but later accounts said it was a debrief on the wildlife in the area, not detained. Law enforcement said he wanted to get lost. In an interview, the sheriff said there are about 2 people per square mile and 8,500 square miles, so it's only 16,000 people total, a very large, open, unpopulated area where you could go missing very easily. And what do Terrence's family and friends think? The parents suspect foul play, especially as the production crew and sheriff's office were very unhelpful. They think he was in an uncomfortable situation and he was trying to get away. Parents hinted at race playing a role. The father went on the radio station and this topic came up. The detective on the case responded via email explicitly denying the race played any role in their investigation of Terrence. The detective further stated they were no longer going to communicate with Mr. Woods. Terrence Woods' older sister, Sharnia Tisdale, says her brother is a bright man who is ambitious and has a kind and loving heart, and that the activity Idaho County Police described is completely out of the ordinary. Quote, "I talked to him before he went out there, and he seemed fine. He was going to go out and do a job with a film crew, and he was going to come home. Nothing abnormal, and he wasn't acting different. We talk all the time." End quote. He is not the type of person that would just run off or do anything like this. So it seems unusual to me. You know, I wasn't there, so I can only go by what they are saying. End quote. He's traveled around the world. He really likes to do TV. He is a loving person and caring, and an all-around good person. So what happened to Terrence? Local legends abound regarding prehistoric creatures that are said to still roam some of the landscape in the Idaho woods. Is it possible that he was swept up by one of these creatures or dragged off into the wilderness never to be seen again? Foul play is also a possibility, but with little physical evidence left behind, it would be very hard to conclusively say this was the case. Did he stage his own disappearance? Some sort of mental breakdown that led him to possibly staging his own disappearance, or simply wanting to just get lost in the hectares of wilderness never to be seen again? Lastly, alien abduction is also possible due to the similarities in the fact that little or no belongings were found. No clues remained, leading to no evidence. At this point, the case is officially cold.